Welcome back into the Sports Source. We got 30 more minutes here, 25 more minutes. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. When it comes to building materials, the biggest and best contractors in East Tennessee have been turning to this company, A.G. Hines Company, for a century. Think about that, 100 years. Now you can too. Before you start your do-it-yourself project, consult with the geniuses at A.G. Hines Company. Not only can they set you on the right path, tell you what you need, get you what you need, they can tell you how to put that project together. Great place, great expertise to turn to. A.G. Hines Company, aghines.com. All right, this is our players only meeting. We are joined by Daniel Hood, Sterling Hinton, Will Overstreet, VFL's one and all. I want to talk about this team's resilience, their attitude, because they've shown it in many ways this year. Yesterday, you give up the touchdown on the first play, and a lot of people are thinking, well, here we go.
No.
Me thinking that. Yeah. They don't blink. They come back. You get to the end of the first half, and suddenly you're starting to waver a little bit. It looks like it's going to be a shootout. You come out and you just lay the lumber in the second half. It's true for the season, too, though. I mean, you go back to the Georgia State game. Then you have the brutal, heartbreaking loss to BYU the next week. You go to Florida and get your clocks cleaned. You don't even look like you belong on the field with an SEC team that week. Then all of a sudden, in October, you look like a bigger, better, faster team. Talk to me about what's going on in that locker room, just your general impressions of how this team has held together.
I think there's two groups you can contribute a lot of that to. And, you know, you really think about this team in another way is they've had to go through several different quarterbacks, and usually somebody says, if you have two, you don't have any, right? And usually that would devastate a team. But what you have is a team led not by quarterback. It's led by offensive line and Jauan Jennings. And somehow those guys have led with their attitude. I mean, I know this offensive line has had some penalties and things like that. But if we remember the past couple of years, this offensive line didn't look like they could fight with anybody. It looked like they would take a whipping and never fight back. This group, I contribute a lot to what they've been doing on the offense is just a mental attitude of toughness and say we're going to be the most physical group out there. And I think it starts with the offensive line and it starts with Jennings because they impersonate or give this whole team a thing of energy. So I think it's that. I think it's that kind of those group of leaderships of buying in and just attitude that has allowed this team to go forward.
And when you talk about the offensive line, the attitude, I know you and I have spoken about this. They've gotten some flags for playing beyond the whistle. Pruitt has said, I'm not going to get on to him for that. I want him doing that. There's an example of the attitude you're talking about that was not there last year.
Yeah, it was not there last year. And in the last several years, you'd say was the offensive line, they wouldn't fight back. You know, they wouldn't get a penalty like that. They were just getting run through like paper. They have set a tone, and I think that tone is carrying over into other places on this team.
Thoughts?
The thing I'd add to it is I think what's got the offensive line to that point and allowed them to do that stuff there is the same thing that Pruitt said was his biggest mistake he made last year, where he didn't develop those relationships with the players, he didn't invest in them and that type of stuff. You see it this year, it usually takes the game 4 or 5 for it to get to that point. So now you see players, they're confident, they know their coaches care for them, they can take coaching, and then more importantly than that, you see your head coach has the same type of attitude that you've seen out of your players the past 2 weeks with how he's been complaining at officials and things like that. A coach only does that when he's truly invested and truly cares about the kids that are around him. And I think they get it from that culture of, you know he's there, you know he's supporting you, he wants to get you to the next level. And as a player, you take that, now you put it on me, now I'm investing more in it.
It's interesting because there were times we thought they turned, we were at this very point last year after the Kentucky game. We're talking about they've turned it around and then they don't show up for 2 weeks. So I don't want to put this in the, it's going to be wins from now on category. Let's tap the brakes a little. But to this point, I agree, they're very resilient to this point. And the fact that they haven't quit on him this year, I asked after the Georgia State game, is this team wanting to play for this coach? Because they had played 3 straight games, the end of the last year and the first one this year, where they didn't look like they cared to be out there.
Yep.
And you can say I misread that all you want. That's just the fact. Anybody watching would have seen that. And now they've shown these last few weeks, we'll play for this guy. Now, let me ask you, Sterling, let me take it to a different direction. Okay. The Jarrett Garantano thing could have torn this team apart. Do you play him again? Do you not play him again? Most of the players last week after the game, I was surprised nobody said, well, he did this. Instead, it was, I don't know what happened. This was called and then we didn't run. I don't know. They kind of guarded him. Trey Smith came out midweek and said, this is a human being.
Absolutely. And
he said after the game yesterday, he praised Garantano for the way he handled it. Garantano stood up in front of the team, owned it in front of the team this week. Met with the media yesterday. He could have said, look, don't throw me to the wolves. He went out there, owned it. How much did his owning up to his mistake last week impress you? And then also, how impressed were you by this team not saying, okay, we're done with you? Because a lot of VFLs that I talked to this week and I saw on social media were saying the same thing, and that is, we're done with him. That team wasn't.
Well, it's funny you say team. You know, we all sit here as VFLs, as players, former players played in different eras. But we're all part of the VFL family. We're all part of different teams in different eras. A team is a family. And everybody here watching the show and is part of the show is part of a family. None of our families are named Jesus Christ. So we don't even have an opportunity to be perfect. And every family has things they go through. And what I like is this team is coming together as that family. They're working hard for each other. They are protecting each other. They're going across that line, representing that Power T as a team and as a family and working to win together. No one's perfect. I'm quite sure there's been some conversations internally that should not get external. But these guys are here to win. Quit. You didn't see the quit now, guys. And a lot of times they could have. Unfortunately, fans and unfortunately us ex-players have the luxury to say things that we would not have done as players. And what's going on right now and what happened yesterday was a prime example of a team being a family and focused on one goal.
Right. I want to end with one thing. Let's put up the graphic here, this shot from yesterday, if we could there, Chris. There was a lot of talk. We debated it here. And there's nothing wrong with asking a question about the face mask yank last week. Nothing wrong with that at all. Some people took offense to that. It was talked about on the national broadcast. Yep. That's a different day and age. I like that picture a whole lot better. And that shows you, I think that shows you that Garantano took it in a certain way that others outside. Daniel, you said if that happened to you, and Will, that happened to you, you're dropping the gloves. You're going right there. He had a different makeup there. So
Did you
credit to Pruitt and credit to Garantano.
Did you hear Garantano's comments there post game too, where he's talking about him and Trout's kind of competition, as we call it? If you're talking about the character of a player, you know, Garantano has been one of the biggest ones that I've seen. Post game, just played a great game, probably his best game he's had this year. And he talks about how he was wanting to support Trout during the week, to work with him. Both of them are helping each other out. And that, you know, that's a unique characteristic. It's natural for us to be selfish, and I want playing time, I want to do this. Garantano put it all behind some, help him out, ended up having his best game of the year.
And what I want to add to that, John, if I may, very quickly, is you know, you got quarterbacks now that are happy to represent the position. Those guys are helping each other out. You had it sort of Maury. You saw Garantano support Maury supporting him. Now Garantano supporting Shroud. They're representing a position that puts a lot of time together, similar like your kickers do when they're together doing practice.
All right, we are way, way over, so the next segment will be extremely quick slants. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, including maybe a good sign to come for the Vols. I'll discuss that next. Come on back on the Sports Source.
Hey, when you're away from home, catch us on Facebook Live, our YouTube channel, or on SportsSource.tv.
Let's do it.
This is the Sports Source.